Welcome to CMO Huddles Studio, the live streaming show dedicated to inspiring B2B greatness. I'm your host, Drew Neiser, live from my home studio in New York City, where the coffee is strong and the dad puns are stirring. Today, we're diving into a topic that's hotter than a CFO in budgeting season: how marketing leaders are building AI acumen across their teams. From prompt skeptics to prompt engineers, the goal is the same: smarter marketing powered by human judgment and machine efficiency. With that, let's bring on Jakki, Geiger, CMO of ArangoDB, and a returning guest who previously appeared on the show to discuss category creation, moving up market, and customer-centric marketing. Hello, Jakki. How are you and where are you this fine day?
Hi, Drew. It's good to see you again. I'm actually in San Francisco Bay Area right now at my home office, but I've been traveling the world. I was just in Germany, the UK, and also Washington, D.C.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm imagining that's going to inform our conversation today, a whirlwind trip. And you're relatively new at Arango, but I'm really curious how, because when you just started like 2 months, we're full into this AI thing. I'm curious what you found and how you're approaching AI literacy with your new team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a little background context. So I have just jumped right in. I'm committed to, in 60 days, launching a new product, a new website, new positioning messaging, and a new brand identity. So yeah, it's a lot, right? So without my trusted agency that I've used in the past and the use of AI, there's absolutely no way we would be on track today to launch, by the way, next week. So when I joined, we're a small but mighty team. We have about 2 people. I have 3 open headcount. So building the team feverishly, but I'm looking for people who are AI forward. I want to make sure people feel comfortable with AI when they come into the organization. I like to hear what are some of the things they've done already. Drew, I met Lisa Adams at the Super Huddle last year, which she's just been a fantastic resource. I've built digital twins for myself, for my CEO, my chief product officer, and for the company. And so what I'm trying to do is lead by example, model the way. So my team feels more comfortable using this type of technology, and that we're looking at our existing tech stack and saying, what AI capabilities are offered that we're not using today? And then what are some of the gaps that we need to fill to get the business outcomes we need to achieve?
It's so interesting, and I'm curious on your perspective. It's because we've had a lot of conversations in the last 2 months in our huddles about how do you build. Like the ones that have 100 people are really in a much more difficult situation than you would too, because your team could probably do what 50 people, I don't know what the number is, but if they are all AI empowered, if you will, is kind of remarkable what a small team can do. And so part one of this is a question: do you imagine that your org is going to be a little bit different than you might have had at a previous job or in the pre-AI period because of the what these tools can help you do?
Absolutely. And I'm not really even just limiting ourselves to marketing, although, like, let's face it, I'm telling my team, I want to win an award for like the most AI forward marketing organization. If we could win that award, that would make me really happy, because I see, like, for me, it's a strategic partner, right? Like, what is our go-to-market strategy? Understanding our personas better, bouncing positioning and messaging off of a digital twin that is an amalgamation of our customer advisory board, right? Like, so there's strategic work. There's also like the content marketing type of work. Like, how do we produce the right blogs to show up in SEO and now GEO results? How do we make sure we've got the right keywords? We're going to be building AI SDRs managed by a human, but like an SDR that's focused on our different industry verticals. And company-wide, I want to build an FAQ knowledge base. We're going to start with the sales team. All the sales enablement material for the new product launch, we're building an FAQ. Ideally, we're going to use our own technology, Arango, to have that data foundation we need, so that the questions just come in with natural language. Like, a rep can say, how do we describe our AI data platform? And boom, the answer comes up and it's accurate with the right business context. So we're going to start with sales, but I'd like to see us expand beyond that. And good news is the leadership team is very AI forward as well, and they align with that vision.
Which is, again, all amazing. And you've listed a lot of different things. I think, are there any of those, whether it's the AI SDRs or I'll call it a sales enablement GPT, that are, you've already been able to ramp up, or we're still talking? I mean, again, you're 2 months in, so how much can you done? I guess it sounds like a lot, but is there one that you're feeling really good about?
Yeah, so I think the digital twins we've built out for the CEO and chief product officer, for myself, and now like we're actually thinking about purchasing some technology that a couple of the CMOs on CMO Huddles have used and recommended. They kind of gave me the here's what's good, here's what could be better, and here's the roadmap that we're kind of banking on. So that's another valuable thing from CMO Huddles, is meeting these CMOs who've had experiences and can give you feedback on technology. But yes, so some are in process, some are live and working every day. Some are starting on Friday, like the AI SDRs. That project starts Friday, and we're building this knowledge base from the first day I started. So we're going to be coordinating with our development team to find out when can we launch a prototype for this. I liked how you said it, sales enablement GPT.
It occurs to me, so we've had this first 90 days quick wins checklist, and we have to completely update it with this sort of framework. So thank you for this information. I want to get specific. Are there any tools that you're using that are really helping? It could be specific, whether it's building the website or because you talked about that, or any tools that you want to reference?
So I'm going to broaden it a little bit to, I just learned when I was in Washington, D.C., we had our sales enablement training. And our sales team is using Notebook LM in a really strategic way. So they're recording all the calls from sales conversations, and they're saying, what were some of the highlight quotes from this customer? How did they describe their pain, so that they can do a better job of mapping our solution to their needs? And then they do that to create readout decks and to ensure that there's continuity across that whole sales conversation. And again, for marketing, that's gold, right? Like all that feedback, all the questions, understanding the pains better feeds into our positioning and our messaging, the content we create, and the effectiveness of the programs we're going to be running.
Wow, there's so much good meat in there. I'm going to highlight one. So if you're not recording sales calls, this is a problem because there's such an opportunity and a gold mine in there to get better and learn. And to the extent that you're doing that, and then you have this database, and then you can create this real-time answer engine for yourself. It feels really helpful. Thanks for mentioning Lisa. She is also joining us this year at the Super Huddle and is going to do a keynote now at the Strategy Lab on Thursday the 6th. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Amazing. Let's now bring on Betsy Daitch, VP of Marketing at Canoe Intelligence, and an industry expert who's joining the show for the very first time. Hello, Betsy, and welcome.
Hello, Drew. Great to see you. Great to be on the show for the first time.
Excited
to be here. Yeah.
So how are you and where are you this amazing day?
Sure thing. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm on the North Shore in Massachusetts, Manchester by the Sea, and it's a beautiful fall day here. So enjoying.
I love it. Well, we're coast to coast here now, from San Francisco to Massachusetts. I love it. Okay, so you're in the financial data space, and I'm curious, because that probably has its own sort of things, but how are you helping your team adopt AI? And are there any implementations you're feeling really good about?
Sure thing. Yeah. So I think, similar to what Jakki was mentioning about leading by example, I think that's really where it starts in helping the rest of the team adopt AI. And, and there are very simple ways that we do that I do that. Every team meeting that we have, we are recording it with Gemini. We're using the transcript, pulling out the next steps automatically to keep projects going with even more efficiency. Simple things like that I'm modeling as the team leader to move to, better adopt AI. And I do think that adoption, of course, happens on a spectrum. There are lots of ways that we can add more projects into our roadmap, whether it's discovering new tools or recognizing a problem and then looking for the tools that we have or new ones in order to solve it. So one of the things that we've done on our team is created this sheet. It's a running sheet that's called Up-Leveling Marketing Efficiency. And with that, we're mapping out problems that we have, tools that we find, and ways that we can adopt it on the team, and various pilots that we'll undergo.
And that's a lot. So thank you for that. Yes, leading by example. Yeah, these the recordings of the transcripts are making it easier. It's interesting. Right now, the transcript happens and you get an email. And in fact, we're working on a workflow that's trying to deal with that. I'm just curious, have you created a more sophisticated workflow than transcript gets sent to the attendees?
Yes, yes. Not incredibly sophisticated, but I have a prompt that I use that I run on Gemini once we receive the transcript to pull out action items, next steps, decisions made with owners and due dates to make it really simple to follow up right after the meeting with what's coming next.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing, and I'm imagining there are some companies who've already gotten, and I've talked to a couple of AI folks where it'll auto do what you just talked about, right?
Right.
It'll just take those prompts and this is what we're talking about workflow, but even ideally start to follow up on things and say, oh, by the way, you were supposed to have meet on this day. Did you do that? So
Exactly.
these are some exciting workflow things. I'm curious, do you have any laggards? And again, I don't, or folks that were slow to adopt, and, have you had to do some training to build the fluency?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, everyone on the team, whether you're in corporate marketing, product marketing, growth, ops, wherever you are, there are ways that each team is adopting AI in different ways. So I wouldn't necessarily say that there are any laggards on the team, just kind of meeting people where they are in their specific workflows.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to call
Yeah.
them out, but I guess what about training though? Because I think this is a big issue. What are you doing there to help folks sort of bring them along? Because I mean, while this is the first technology that you could actually ask it, how do I use you, and how do I use you to the best of my ability, and what could I do better here? So it's unusual that way, but still, not everybody figures that out. And I'm curious if you've done formal training.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being led to say that we need formal training, but we actually haven't. We haven't done any. We haven't done any formal training. It really is. It's on the job. It's experiential. It's learning from each other. And one of the things that we're doing on that front is we have our QBR for Q3 on Tuesday next week among the marketing team, and part of that QBR is every marketing vertical is going to pitch an AI project that they're going to execute on in Q4. And by that, we're learning from each other, we're sharing ideas, and always continuing to innovate in that way.
Yeah, I love that. It came up in a huddle recently, this notion of sort of now you can enable people to pitch really interesting things that they could never actually consider before. And as you were talking about, what's interesting, and when we started with this, it was about the tools, and a new tool would come out and people would get excited. And then, for a moment in my mind, we were swinging to focus on the problems that you want to solve, and then you can figure out the tools later. But I think there's some balance potentially, because sometimes the tools do things you never thought you could actually do.
Yeah, exactly. And, in every day, there's more connectivity between your existing tech stack and new AI tools. So it's a constant learning process.
Yeah. And do you have anybody on your team that's sort of stepped up that you would say is like a vibe coder that is just like so enamored with this that they're kind of leading the way?
Yeah, I would say on our product marketing team, our product marketing lead has really become the leader in adopting new technologies and just really testing out everything from like creating a kind of a calculator with Replit to even like writing songs through an app just for fun, but really leaning into all new tools available and seeing how it fits within our plan.
I love it. Can you explain the calculator a little bit more?
Sure thing. So at Canoe, what we do is we automate document and data workflows for alternative investors. And we were interested in building a calculator to map out what could the efficiencies gained be in using Canoe to automate this work versus doing it manually. So we went to Replit as kind of a test, a fun test, in order to build out this calculator and continue to expand it and use it as a lead gen tool in the future.
I love it. Yeah. And there's so many things that, I mean, these days, everybody should have the equivalent of an ROI calculator, or because, it is a question in every buyer's mind is, what's the speed to value? How quickly can I get value out of whatever your product or service is? So if you can't figure out how to answer that, maybe generative AI can. So that's super cool. Okay. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to bring on Grant Johnson, who is fractional CMO at Chief Outsiders, who has previously joined the show to discuss many topics, including CEO, CMO alignment, B2B marketing metrics, and implementing ABM. Hello, Grant. Welcome back.
Hey, it's great to be here, Drew. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Although I had a tough match last night, which you can appreciate. Won the first set, lost the second too. Anyway, Grant and I had a chance to meet in Southern California just recently, and actually got out and hit some tennis balls, which is a lot of fun. Anyway, where are you this fine day?
I'm in San Clemente in South Orange County, where the sun's generally out by midday.
There it is. All right. Well, we've got full representation on the West Coast. So, look, you're advising a lot of companies, and what are you seeing as the biggest gaps in AI readiness across sort of B2B marketing teams?
Yeah, I think we got a sense of it from talking earlier, and what you can see is that there's no real mandate to upskill each staff member to their level of proficiency needed to move that sub-function in marketing, whether it's product marketing or demand gen or operations or communications. I think that's one of the biggest things. Or there's not time allotted. We all have faced in our lives and our careers the tyranny of the urgent. And if you don't block time, you don't have to become a vibe coder, although that could be fun too, to improve your skills on a daily basis. It's going to be difficult to keep up. And then the other thing I've seen, and I loved hearing the, tracking list of how we're going to, improve marketing competency over time. This is tracking. I started 2 years ago at a company where we probably tried 400 experiments. And I think in retrospect, that was a good exercise, but what it lacked was, let's find the one best tool that'll help the function. And so for me, Gamma for presentations, a game changer. A lot of people might, use Midjourney for images. Clay's been great at a couple of my clients for lead enrichment, prospecting, and even workflow automation.
Yeah, and it's funny. We talked about this before. I mean, Descript is another one. It's for us, at least. We use it for both video and for the podcast, and it's literally probably saved us 80% per episode in terms of time. And those are dramatic improvements. I want to go back to, so if there's no clear mandate for competency level, the solution would be to try to set some levels, but you'd have to have training or something available for the team in order to get there, right?
Yeah, I really think so. Quite frankly, Betsy mentioned, and I've talked to dozens of CMOs. There's hundreds in CMO Huddles, many of which we all know, and there's some in Chief Outsiders. We're all grappling with the age of AI and agentic AI coming even faster. And I think that, you really have to have a framework for how you're going to adopt it. Now, I've done workshops. A lot of us in Chief Outsiders, we do workshops, 2-hour, 4-hour, one-day workshops. And of course, like any workshop, you have to plan, you have to understand the current state, you have to have the end state where you're trying to get to and what tools use. And I think one of the best things for a workshop is when you've got multiple groups. Let's say you're launching a new go-to-market or ABM segment campaign, and you're going to need product marketing, you're going to need creative, you're going to need content, you're going to need the targeted list, maybe some segmentation. Have everybody work together on that using one or more tools. And it's amazing how fast the learning can go, and you bring the skill up faster. And then, as you said earlier, you've got to have one person on your team. Not everybody has to be a 5 on a scale of 1 to 5, but it's great to have. I designated our content marketing person because he was leaning in at my last company. Hey, why don't you take the lead on this? And he sent me a website, new tools every day for AI. Nobody can try them all, but you can crowdsource. You can ask chat, hey, what are the best tools for product marketing, for demand gen, for comms, for ops, whatever.
Again, I want to dig into this thing because I think there was a tendency early on to sort of be tool centric. Oh, this one is really cool. Let's go after that. And we weren't necessarily solving meaningful business problems. And so we started to move into, say, workflow. Like, yes, you can create content faster. We still don't know if you can create content better, but we know we can create content faster. Okay, great. Then there's workflows, and workflows are kind of complicated. And but I like your notion of here's a specific challenge that we have. We've got to solve that problem. Now let's all work together with some of these tools to help us solve that problem faster and then map out a solution. And I am curious, what do those workshops look like?
Well, you've got the prep work. So you upload it, whether you've got Gemini or ChatGPT or you pick your tool, Claude, right? So you have to have your own instance and your own license because you want to keep it within your company, that container, if you will. So you upload your content, and a lot of clients that work with, they've got their brand guidelines for visual, their verbal guidelines for messaging. And so at least that what's going to be created by the tools will be either on brand or close enough for minor editing required. And then you have to have a specific use case that you define. You don't want to try to boil the ocean. Right. So you can see, hey, where did it help? And I always talk to people who are on our Gen AI journey. It's like any new skill, whether it's on the tennis court or learning a language, there's sort of that crossing point where the time invested is less than the time gained. But initially, you may have to invest more time to get your competency level to where it's taking work off your plate. It's automating the manual, mundane, repetitive tasks, and it's passing the to-do without you having to think about it to the next person in the production line, if you will.
It's funny when you describe that. It's not that different if you have an assistant or you have direct reports and so forth. And there's the issue that everybody has, which is, what do you delegate? And there's time that it takes initially to train someone to do something so that you don't have to do it. And it sounds very similar here. You have to train these tools to really get you where you want to go. And so, yeah, it does take some time. And it's not as simple as going in and just searching in one step. And that's part of the kind of interesting thing that's happened with projects and, again, with workflows. And what we found, and maybe you've seen this too, is this is where you need this AI ops person, because a lot of times it's not just the prompt, there's connecting other sources of information. And you need to understand at least, okay, we're integrating an API here. We're going to grab that transcript from Zoom. Well, nobody on my team knows how to do that. And so you need to have somebody who can figure out some of this. And that's, again, this is what's tricky here is we're sort of in the world of coding and we're in the world of prompting and we're trying to get all of that. So again, I think I go back to, how do you as a CMO and an advisor kind of stay on top of what's even possible right now?
Well, I think through CMO Huddles, quite frankly, there's a lot of discussions. There's bonus huddles. There's other industry ways, and peers and chief outsiders. We're always posting, check this out. Our operating system we use with clients has 12 built-in AI prompts, and we're adding or amending those over time. But you'd also mentioned the AI prompt engineer. I just saw posting And I've mentored 20 heads of marketing CMOs, and earlier in their career, they've launched very successfully. And she's hiring an AI prompt engineer just dedicated. There's so much that they're doing at her mid-sized company. Let's call it 50 million, emerging growth, mid-size. It's like, we can't just parse this out. We've got to have somebody do it. And I found this at a client where they created an amazing workflow that would go out, scrape websites, and based on certain criteria they put into, would say, hey, this is a prospect, upload it, send it to the respective SDRs or AEs, here's a lead. But when the person who built that left the company, there was no institutional knowledge how to move it forward. And so that's why you've got to have that expertise. And, ideally, it's either in marketing or semi-dedicated to go to market and marketing, so you can iterate and improve and, experiment to find out what's going to work for you and give you incremental gains.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought about the person leaving. And so you really need to have these things documented, just like you would have in the old days when you were creating an application. You need to have some documentation behind this just in case the person who wrote it leaves. Interesting. All right. Well, lots more to digest and jump into. But now it is time for me to talk about CMO Huddles. Launched in 2020, CMO Huddles is the only community of flocking awesome B2B marketing leaders, and that has a logo featuring penguins. Wait, what? Yes, well, a group of these curious, adaptable, and problem-solving birds is called a huddle. Get it? And the leaders in CMO Huddles are all that and more, huddling together to conquer the toughest job in the C-suite. So, Jakki, Betsy, Grant, you're all incredibly busy leaders. Grant and Jakki, you guys have been with us almost from the beginning. I'm wondering if you could share a specific example of how CMO Huddles has helped you. Jakki, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. So yes, I was one of the founding members of CMO Huddles. And for me, I was a first-time CMO. And I wanted to network with other CMOs and get to know other CMOs who I could bounce ideas off of, talk about challenges, get feedback and input. And it's really evolved where now I have this incredible network of people that I meet with regularly, right, as part of the CMO Huddles, online sessions, live sessions, but also one-on-ones where we really help each other out, where I now mentor others. This space is changing so dramatically all the time. So for me, you mentioned, like, how do you do it? Is it business or is it the tool? And like, honestly, I think it's both. And I think the best network you have, leverage that to figure out like what's working for other people. How can you apply it to your own business? What's working for you? How can you share the news with others so they can benefit as well?
I love it. Well, we appreciate you and your longtime membership. Grant, anything to share?
Well, look, I'm a founding member as well. I've believed in the value of CMO Huddles. Like anything else, you get as much out as you put in. I will say I was at the Super Huddle last year. I'll be there again this year in Palo Alto in person. And when I met a dozen other CMOs that I'd worked with through CMO Huddles, where we helped each other with a particular business challenge, we were a sounding board. We were somebody you could turn to for resources, ideas, dealing with difficult boards, speaking of boards. And we saw each other IRL in real life. It just cemented the depth of relationship and value that the CMO Huddles brings you. You may not always have the opportunity to meet in real life, just like with your customers or other other folks in your network. But when you do, you sort of reinforces that it's such a valuable investment. You have to have somebody on your side and somebody to help propel your career when needed or help you overcome an obstacle. And what better than a group of penguins, members of CMO Huddles?
I love it. All right. Well, Betsy, no pressure here. I mean, you're relatively new to CMO Huddles, but curious your perspective.
Sure thing. Yeah. And of course, not a founding member. I've been part of CMO Huddles for about a year, but I joined for a lot of the same reasons, for the camaraderie, being in a marketing leadership seat at a fast growing business. It can get lonely, and finding a really great group at CMO Huddles has been fantastic. One, real example of that is earlier this year, we were really overhauling a lot of our go-to-market efforts. And one of the big challenges that we were looking to solve was marketing attribution. And so I took to the CMO Huddles Slack channel, asked for advice. And I think really within minutes, I had a number of responses who gave me advice on best approach. There's so many options: first touch, last touch, multi-touch, look back periods, all of this. And through those conversations, I was really able to formulate our approach at Canoe with so much more speed than I would have been able to otherwise. So really grateful for that. And, and that's just one example. I've been able to leverage the community.
Well, thank you all for that. And it really, we appreciate you so much. If you're a B2B marketing leader who wants to build a stronger peer network, gain recognition as a thought leader, and get your very own Stress Penguin, please join us at cmohuddles.com. All right, let's bring everybody back. We've talked about some of this, but I'm curious. And every team seems to have an AI resistant person, and we want to have everybody be AI curious. And there's a big difference between those two. And so let's talk about upskilling in general. We've covered a little bit, but how do we sort of crack this nut? And are we at the point? I know that with new hires, it's easy, right? You can just say, hey, have you vibe code? Are you doing this? And how are you using it? But are we at the point where if someone doesn't adopt these tools, they probably are in the wrong place?
I'm happy to answer that. I think so. Like there are people who are just, I'd say there's two types of people. You give them a project and they're like, let's go. And then you have some people who are like, oh no, right? There's always those people who are like, oh no, I've got to learn something new. So I loved Betsy's idea about, just have that quarterly meeting where everyone on the team has to present how they're leveraging. And I think there's no better way to get over fear and uncertainty than taking on a project yourself and seeing how it works, figuring it out, and then presenting to other people and how it went.
Yeah. I have to tell you, just this is not self-congratulatory as it sounds, but having committed myself to having to create an AI video, which I had never done, I learned so much. I also learned that you need professionals at some point in time if you want to create a great video, but you have to sort of commit to it. So I appreciate that. Betsy, you've talked about other things. Anything on the upskilling part that has worked particularly well for you?
Yeah, I think, when there is kind of a spectrum of ability and knowledge within the team, I think that it's one way to always make incremental progress is to focus on the most narrow problem to solve to make AI adoption less daunting. So that's just one way that we've done it on the team, like starting small with content creation, leveraging gems, applying what other members of the team are using in order to elevate other work. I think that's one thing that's worked well for us, and we're continuing to build on it.
Yeah, I love that point about narrow the problem to solve. And as you're thinking about it, it occurred to me that one of the things that we know in AEO, recency matters. So one person can go back through your top 20 posts and update them with some interesting new information. That takes a few seconds now, where it would have been longer. And that's an easy one to do. Exactly. We need to update our top 20 posts. Boom. Give it to the person who is the most resistant and have them figure it out. Grant, you want to weigh in on this whole process of upskilling?
Yeah, and I think it is essential, whether you're public, private, PE, VC, everybody is telling the hardest job in the C-suite. We can do, faster, better, cheaper, more with AI. So you need to, instead of being on the defensive, go on the offensive and just do reporting like marketing monthly update, AI progress update, and talk about, how you're streamlining workflow, how you're speeding insights, how you're, progressing pipeline. And I think that helps. And, whether it's individuals that are making the progress or teams, that's the campaign that I described that was cross-functional. The AI skilling is essential because the question is going to become, because everybody's going to be running their own chat and say, well, look, we could have done it this way or that way. So you sort of have to be ahead of that curve. And I think lead the charge, uniquely suited as a marketing leader to lean into AI with your team. And as you said, Drew, if you're interviewing new people and they say, no, I don't, AI is for the techies, it's probably not going to be a good fit for your team. Everybody has AI.
Yeah, it's true. And what's interesting, a year ago, at least when you had this conversation, the person who was most resistant, once you sort of forced them to make them lead the team, they became the great champions. It's a classic scenario of that. But this brings up an interesting point, which is what do CEOs care about? Revenue today, revenue tomorrow, profit, right? And the tricky part with this right now is we don't know which pilots are actually going to lead to either better outcomes and which ones are going to lead to faster outcomes and which ones are going to lead to faster, better outcomes, right? And it's hard to, I imagine, but I'm curious. So Jakki, you just got there, but are you reporting AI initiatives up the chain, or is it too early, or does that feel like you're talking about site traffic again?
Yeah, I don't really do it a lot, right? I think for me, I just think it's part of our work. It's me and my digital twin and my CEO's digital twin and chief product. So
right.
I'll talk about it and say, yeah, so I used my digital twin to create this or whatever, but I'm not here's an AI project we're running and let's see what the results are. To me, it's just part of our daily work. And I think it's important to mention, Drew, ChatGPT is a toddler. This is the hardest AI is ever going to be.
Right.
I had to go to Germany, England, all these places. I used ChatGPT to figure out I'm flying premium economy. What's the best airlines to use? What's the best routes? But you know what it didn't do? Book my flight.
Right.
OpenAI just announced now they're going to have agents that will go that last mile and execute it for you. So today we have to worry about prompts and everything. Very near future, we're going to be using natural language to just make our lives so much easier, get the information we need, make better decisions. So right. I think it's only going to get easier.
I think one point that you made, and I'm going to ask the other two about this, is you built a digital twin for your CEO. I think that's genius because that way they're not left behind too. And it occurred to me that you probably should have a CEO GPT, which is slightly different than a digital twin in that if you ever want to write in that voice or need that for social, and maybe they're the same, but I'm just curious, Betsy or Grant, are you seeing CEOs adopt these tools, or it is part of marketing's entree into the strategic level there is to help them do this? Betsy, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So we're doing this on behalf of our leadership team today, leveraging tools, bringing together past recordings, past media placements, and in order to go down this path. We haven't quite created the digital twins yet for our team or for myself, but that's certainly on our roadmap, something that we'd love to do.
Interesting. Grant, it hadn't occurred to me that, boy, if the CMO is the one, I know there are some CMOs who are driving organizational adoption, but if we just specifically think about CEO and CFO and their either potential resistance or all the time, the things that the CMO could do to help them become more AI forward. Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, well, I think let's take this with a company I've been helping out. They just hired a VP of marketing, so we come in as a fractional, help them write the rubric and screen. And so, like a lot of companies, they're challenged with, trying to keep up with companies that have bigger budgets and have multiple people. They've got one guy, one man, one woman, one person doing content, and that's a lot. And so they created the digital twin for the CEO, and so they understand their tone of voice, the language, how they speak, how they approach these areas of expertise for thought leadership content. And so it takes the CEO just a minute to scan the next post or thought leadership article, and all of it's fed through a customized prompt that enables Super Joe. His name's Joe. We call him now Super Joe. To crank out 10 pieces a week. It was 10 pieces a month, and then twice that, and then now 4 times that. I don't know if it gets to 10 times that because still these engines, quality over quantity, as you've been talking about for a couple of years in your Saturday blogs, Drew. But yes, using it for the CEO, the CFO is another brilliant idea. If you can help the CFO save money, you might get more of it for marketing. Right. Let's try that one out.
It's funny. I just want to make this. The Saturday rants, I've probably done 70 of them now. 2 of them were primarily GPT driven out of the 70. Those were the worst performing of all. And by the way, I have a digital twin that has all of my content, like 2 books worth and like 1,000 articles in there. So it knows my voice. It's really good for that. Yet they don't hit that. They don't spark conversation. And so either I'm prompting poorly, which is quite possible, or there's just nothing like human writing. I don't know. You tell me, but this is my concern overall. Like, I love workflow because I know if we can get something that took 10 hours to 2 hours because of workflow, brilliant. I still worry about content. Not if you have an original piece and then you parse it out and create a bunch of other iterations, but written word content. Are we certain at this point that GPT generated content will perform anywhere near as well as human written content?
Drew, I'd love to jump in on that. Like, I use it as a partner. I would never just say, okay, here's a prompt, take it, review it for accuracy and, style and send it out. I iterate. I don't like this sentence. You forgot this key message. Like, I'm constantly iterating with it to get it to a point where I'm happy with it because it sounds like me, or it sounds like our CMO or CEO or CPO, right? So for me, it's not a one and done. It's basically like having an editor and you're working closely with this editor. It still takes a couple hours to create a really good piece of content. But I find it's a great collaborative process for me. I enjoy it.
Interesting. Okay. Betsy, any thoughts there? I mean, again, empirical proof. You can test this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, very much in line with Drew, what you're talking about in Jakki. There's never a time where we're able to put content into Gemini with a prompt and it spits out exactly 100% what we were intending. There's always that review process, that advisory angle back and forth. And it does usually take a couple of hours or longer in order to get the piece completed. But having the tools in that advisory capacity does, of course, streamline anything that we were doing before.
And by the way, I'm sorry for this rant and getting on my high horse on this, but I do think it matters because measurement of these things is interesting. We can't just look at efficiency, right? We know we need to be driving revenue. In order to drive revenue and keep customers, we need to have content plays a role in that. So this is the part where AI could, if we just focus on efficiency, we may be in trouble as marketers. And I'm both. And so I guess the challenge becomes, and this is why, Grant Super Joe is cranking out stuff. I hope Super Joe is also a great editor. I mean, like a really good content discerner, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to have that. And I agree with you on, I've done all kinds of things in clients. And when I was full-time CMO, where, it's the first output is not even usable, and creativity is still going to rule supreme, and judgment. At some point it may do those better than the various AIs, but having that efficient person that can discern good strategy from a bad strategy, a good direction from a poor one, and so forth. That takes the human element. It's the human plus AI is where you can really move it forward.
Yeah. And again, I think that human matters in the scheme of things, right? It's someone who has experience, who has judgment, judgment being the key word. So we spent a lot of this conversation is about generating curiosity and getting folks to use the tools to their fullest capabilities. And then, of course, we've moved into the judgment area. But I guess I want to go back to where the show is supposed to be about, which is getting more adoption. So how are you creating this safe space for experimentation because we want to get everybody to do things, but still you want them also to be accountable for results. So what's the approach? And we've heard some already, and if you need to repeat yourself, that's okay. Jakki.
Yeah. So for me, we have technology already. We've invested quite a bit into tech stack. So number one is like, let's find out what AI capabilities those vendors provide, and do they impact our business results, right? Do they help us to get to business outcomes faster? Do they improve conversion rates, whatever it happens to be, right? Let's identify what they're meant to do. Let's test them out and see if they actually give us those results. And then the best for me has been meeting with these new vendors. What you said really resonated with me. Sometimes like people are inventing technology that you never even imagined before. And so I'm learning a ton from that. I want my team to learn a ton from that and say, how can we apply this to our business? And does it make sense right now for this phase that we're in? Or should we put this on the list as something to explore later? So for me, it's an AI forward approach in everything we do, right? So start a project. Hey, how can we use AI for this? I think that's the big message for me. The other thing is, as marketing leaders, I think we need to shift the conversation from just, can we use this for content marketing? We need to be documenting our processes. The teams that have the best documented processes will be able to build these workflows and agents to really boost efficiency, which is what you're talking about. That's where I think the efficiency is going to come from, rather than helping you create content faster.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. We've talked a lot about that in Huddles in the last 6 months. There are a number of processes that you have in your company that you do over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And it may not seem a lot, but like where there could be 35 to 50 human touches on some simple process. And if you can figure out that workflow, you can automate it. You just have to sort of have that mindset. Betsy, I think you talked about the quarterly QBRs where you guys are sharing things, and you also have a list.
Right.
I'm imagining, so talk a little bit about there's got to be some of these that don't work and how you're dealing with that.
Yeah, certainly there are always things that don't work, and Canoe, we're an 8-year-old business, and we pivot really quickly. We pivot really quickly and optimize in all areas, from paid search to events to everything else. So this is another area that we're testing. And in one way to kind of ensure that we are making the best investments with AI is really also investing the time to test everything, give everything the best shot, give our ideas the best shot. So another I guess program that we're putting in place for the rest of this quarter is spending 1 day a week focused on these initiatives that we're pitching at the QBR next week. So we'll have the time to invest to really measure the results and the impact.
I love it. All right. So now we're on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Grant, anything else in this boosting confidence space and in thoughts?
Yeah, if you've got a complex campaign or initiative, I've been doing this with chief outsiders and clients, trying to implement a few clients of more interlocked ABM program, so that sales, SDRs or BDRs, marketing are working in lockstep. Let's say over a quarterly project, and you can just feed into your favorite prompt engineering and say, like, give me the work streams, the time frames, the deliverables, the hours needed, and it seems like double the hours you actually need. Now you can have individuals. How do we do this piece faster together? So it sort of becomes like a challenge that's very concrete, because all the steps are defined in the program, organizational structure and timeline. And so that's been a way, like, I guess if I can't go faster with the current tool, maybe there's a better tool. I can swap this out for that out. And so it's rather than the one-offs that we were talking about earlier in the show, this is a unified approach to leveraging a variety of AI tools. Could just be one or more, to help deliver program, as you said, not just efficiency, but effectiveness. The number of leads that convert to opportunities that close to one revenue. That's what CFOs, CEOs care about.
Right. Yeah, and that's such an important part of this, is that we ultimately are translating any of these initiatives to business value. Okay, we've got a lot. We've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time, but we need some final words of wisdom for other CMOs when it comes to building their team's AI acumen. And Jakki, we'll let you start.
Sure. So I think back, this is just another technology revolution in marketing, right? Like, remember when we didn't have a HubSpot, right? Remember when we didn't have YouTube? Remember when we didn't have social media channels, when there was nothing like PPC, right? So imagine people without digital marketing skills. You can't. In order to be in this profession, you need to keep up with the changes, and they're becoming faster and more furious. And so I would say, help your team get up to speed as quickly as possible, hear their concerns, try to give them small projects to make them feel more comfortable. But most importantly, lead by example. And the future is not about like AI or people, right? It's AI with people. And it's only going to get easier to use moving forward.
I love it. Okay, Betsy, final words of wisdom.
Sure thing. I would say, kind of with everything in marketing, but in particular with AI, always to keep your business goals front and center, and also be intentional about the AI pilots and experiments that you run. If you do these two things, focus on your goals and be intentional about the pilots that you run, you're first, guaranteed to learn in everything that you do, and you will be consistently making an impact, and of course, developing your team's AI acumen.
I love it. Okay, Grant, bring us home.
Well, certainly you want to lean in, as we've heard from the other guests today, and don't be afraid. You'll make mistakes, but you'll learn faster through the mistakes. Bring in advisors and tap your community. The CMO Huddles has so many people trying to do a lot of things, and somebody may have succeeded or failed in an area you're about ready to venture into. So call a friend.
Phone a friend. I love it. All right. There's a lot here that I would just want to highlight really quickly to end this up. So big picture, there is no future in the short term, probably in the long term, where humans are not using these tools. Now, we know that the tools will adopt and change. So clearly, your team can help you with that process, because one person simply can't do it all. Although we have agreed that we do need an internal AI ops person who can like code and so forth. And you either have to hire that person or you got to have someone raise their hand to do it. I love this other idea that came up, which is, what can you do to empower your CEO to use these tools and make them feel comfortable with it, so that you become the person that helped them be super, super powerful? Because if you think about it for a second, you say, I'm wrapping a machine around me. Suddenly I can lift 500 pounds. That's what this is about. It's about turning you all into supermen. Okay. Enough on that. Thank you, Jakki, Betsy, Grant. You're all amazing sports. And thank you, audience, for staying with us. Please join us in 2 weeks when we'll be talking about driving demand with Isabel Papulias, Patty Newcomer, and Sarah Neighbors. Cue the music. CMO Huddles Studio is produced by Melissa Caffrey. Our production assistants are Laura Parkin and Ishar Cuevas. If you'd like to learn more about CMO Huddles, please visit CMOHuddles.com. I'm your host, Drew Neiser, and until next time, keep on sharing, caring, and daring each other to greatness.